So I want to talk a little bit about some of the other theological underpinnings that are in alignment with covenant. Some of you may have heard of Alfred North Whitehead. He was the process philosophy. He was a mathematician who came up with this idea of process philosophy. And there's also American pragmatist John Dewey, who had the idea of how we interact with one another, and that's how we learn. And Unitarian Universalist theologian Henry Nelson Wyman sort of took those two different schools of thought and brought them together in his version of process theology. So this is sort of Wyman's model that I've laid out here. We each have our own personal beliefs, which are informed by both reason and experience. And then there's other folks floating around the world that we interact with that also have their own beliefs formed by their own reason and experience. And when we interact with one another in what we hope is a free and open discourse, and then what happens is that feeds back, it creates new experiences, new reflections that in turn enriches us. And so this ongoing interaction with one another, in order to keep that interaction free and open, you need to have a community of trust, of openness, and the best way to do that is to have a community that's based on both goodwill and forbearance. And Alice Blair Wesley uses those terms quite a bit. Forbearance is the idea of having both patience and tolerance, being able, when you're feeling anxious, to sort of pause, take a deep breath, center yourself so that you're not operating out of your lizard brain, so the amygdala isn't doing all the work for you. You're able to use your higher cognitive functions. So there's this idea of having self-control and not responding to provocation. Everyone's provoked. That's just what happens. But what we do with that, how we're able to manage ourselves is what's important. And then pairing with that is the idea of goodwill. Trusting one another and being trustworthy. So being a person of your word, following through on your commitments. The idea of being in fellowship, spending what I like to say slow time together. Those of us in the Ohio Meadville District have Summer Institute, which is a nice way of coming together and hanging out. I think there's Susie down in the sort of near the southern part of Joseph Priestley District. UMAC and Unirondack or other opportunities for that. Also having a sense of sympathy, of being able to walk in one another's shoes. So what creates this container of goodwill and forbearance is this idea of covenant. So from the model of Henry Nelson Wyman, the idea of covenant goes in alignment with this idea of process theology and having the creative event. God participates when this is happening in a positive way and when it's happening for the greater good.